Test 1, 2. Everybody good?
Yep, you sound good.
You sound fine. Yeah.
Yep,
All right.
sound great.
Checking the live show. Okay, I need to add the code for the live show real quick. Hold on. Sorry, guys. We got about 2 minutes of maintenance.
You're fine.
Good.
All right, everybody's coming back in. Copy the show. Get code. You don't have any pre-created events. All right, copy code. And then we go to Shopify. Test 1, 2.
Leave me, Charlie.
Okay.
What Leroy said.
Means loud and clear in military. Boop, 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 boop. Folks, we're almost there. Hang tight. Share. Share it. Money penny. Customize. Show. Hey, someone would check Rumble real quick, see if it's up. If you wouldn't mind. Otherwise, I'm getting the rest of the sites, making sure everything's up. But Rumble's the only one. All right, it should be now active on the Don't Unfriend Me site, maybe.
Well, you've already got at least 45 watching on Facebook. So welcome to the live show, Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting the rest of the sites.
Rumble's live.
Good. All right, now we're just waiting for this to be live.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Weird. It's not working on the site. Why? They said they fixed this. God, I'm gonna fucking restream. You know, you gotta turn that down if you're getting feedback now. It's okay.
There we go.
All right, let's see. Share. Folks, it's not going to be on tonight. It's not going to be on Don't Unfriend Me. It's going to be everywhere else, but no Don't Unfriend Me. Sorry, can't do it. It's not going to happen. All right, we got everybody on. Good. Wait, somebody said echo. Karen, don't.
No, I think they were responding to a question that said what happened.
Nobody asked questions. No freaking questions. All right. We don't want to jinx this damn thing. Well, welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. Good to have everybody here. Sorry about the intro. Sorry about everything. We had to delete it. I had to go and delete them all and then put it back up because my obsessive compulsive disorder is real. Leroy, welcome. Amy, welcome. That was a little bit of a snafu. There's no reason for that to happen. That happened. Everything was set up properly. I had to turn everything to a different setting and then bring all of it back, and it worked.
Thank you, Mike.
No, David, Amy and Leroy usually don't talk during the intro, but they were, and it doesn't matter. But that's fine. The echo happened. Yeah, it wasn't Amy and Leroy. It's my setting. I heard it earlier when I did my recording. I had to recut when I played music. I had to recut them and put them back on out of the live or the recorded show. So something happened. And listen, this software is extremely advanced, and it's gonna okay. For instance, the other night on my TV, right? So all of a sudden it turns black and blue. There's no color, and it's like literally like Matrix without the green filter, but a blue filter. You can't see shit. And, Olivia's like, well, we need to go to a new TV. So she troubleshoots it. I go take a nap, of course. And I'm like, I'm going to go take a nap. Forget it. And she's like, I'll do it. I'm like, are you sure? Because I'll just get up. No, go take a nap. I'm like, all right, fine. Just took a nap. I woke up. I woke up and her hair's all tousled. There's like 75 HDMI cables. And I got to give her credit. She troubleshooted everything except for the one thing. That was the problem. It was the firmware. So I had to go in and replace the firmware. And the difference between a software and firmware is software is an active running script that continues to propagate every time you do an input. And a firmware is a passive processes for all the hardware in the TV or computer, whatever, that does not run passively, but essential to make A, B, and C connect. And if there's any hiccup in that firmware whatsoever, A won't connect to B and B won't broadcast to C, and therefore you get sometimes a picture that looks like shit or a computer that's not working. So the firmware reset, we did that, and then boom, it all worked. Now, what we found out also is that the TV looks a shit ton better now because you don't know what you don't know. And we got rid of Apple TV for the first time in 6 years because the Roku now has added Apple TV and Fubo, and Roku is like winning this war, and it's 10 times better than Apple TV. So the whole lesson is happy accidents and fortuitousness usually are synonymous with each other. So there's the information you didn't need.
I'm looking to buy a new TV too, so that's interesting.
Yeah, what are you gonna get?
We want my kid. He comes in with all the good suggestions, right? So he's like, "You got to get an OLED, a Samsung OLED." I'm like, "All right, well,
Samsung.
If you're gonna do it now."
I want to do a Samsung. I want to go with Samsung.
Oh,
Samsung's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Samsung. There's nothing wrong with Sony. I mean, I've got a 85-inch Sony downstairs that costs about as much as a small car. Yeah. Nothing wrong with it. But the question is, what are you going to do with it? How big is it going to be?
Well, and so we have an appropriate space in our main living area that our wall is perfect for like a good set, like a 70-incher.
Okay, so 75 inches is what you're going to go with because you're not going to pay the extra for the 85 because you shouldn't.
Probably.
So get your 75 inch. All right, so Samsung's fantastic. The problem is with a 75 inch, a decent Samsung is going to set you back $4,500 to $5,000.
Yeah,
a good one. Here's the thing. I sold these things for a living. There's nothing I don't know about TVs. And let me just tell you one thing that you need to know. If you're going to buy Sony, it's very important that you look at which series was released because there's fragmentation and you get light escaping out of the corners on some Sonys, and others, they're terrific. That's the only drawback in tone is bleeding on the outside edges. Samsung processors take a shit all the time. The thing I would tell you is that if you're not going to actually have a full surround sound system, if you're not going to have a full movie theater and you're not going to have multiple TVs side by side, which some people do for gaming, whatever you see in the store, it doesn't effing matter because the moment you bring it into your house, you won't have comparison contrast anyway. So you might as well just buy the thing that's the cheapest, but is high quality. And you can get away with buying a Vizio, buying a Westinghouse, buying another TV that, is a half the price, because here's the trick. Samsung, in their smaller TVs, Samsung panels are in Sony's. And a lot of the larger Samsungs buy Sony TVs. And so this is what you get. So you got to make the call. But I've got Samsungs, I've got Vizio, I've got Sony. And honestly, my TV up in my living room is one of my favorite TVs. And it's a 75 on the wall and no surround sound except a little sound bar. And we love it. So you got to decide.
I will tell you this. We have an 85. I think it's 85. Samsung in our, I guess you could call it a formal family room. That TV is awesome. And then we have mostly Samsungs. I don't know how many TVs we have. We don't watch 90% of our TVs. And then we have LGs in like the guest room and the kids playroom, I think.
Yeah.
We need a recommendation for a projector. So if anyone knows a good,
I wouldn't even do one.
I know we weren't going to. We were not going to do a projector, and then we had an older one, so we're like, let's just hook it up for now for the theater room. And I was like, it's something nostalgic about the projector, and we agreed that the picture quality is good enough. It's not as crisp as like our one in the family room, but it's awesome. It's just nice to have that like nostalgic like theater projector.
No. Listen, honestly, a lot of people spend money in the projector. I'd spend money on the screen. The screen is the key. And The amount of lumens that reflect off that sucker depend upon the quality of picture. And you're going to get an amazing picture if you do it right. But what a lot of people do is they spend, $10,000 on the projector and buy a $500 screen. And I'm like, you're an idiot.
No, we're not those people. But
good.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that people do is, like, when I was slinging TVs, is I'd be like, all right, well, let's get you your TV. And this guy's like, I want a 50-inch, because that was like the size back then. I'm like, okay, great. It's a $4,000 TV. What's your budget? He's like, $4,250. And I said, okay, well, thank you so much and have a nice day. And when you're ready to take this seriously, let me know. Like, what? What do you mean? I said, well, I'm not going to sell you a TV for $4,000 and leave $250 left over, because you're not even halfway there. I'm like, what? I don't understand. I said, okay, well, let me explain it to you, because I got to go. I got customers who are serious about buying their home entertainment system, and you guys aren't. So here's, let me tell you what you got here. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to pretend I'm a movie. Okay. And I said, okay, great. I said, great. Now cover your ears. Plug both your ears. How do I look? I'm like, you look great. I said, how do I sound? They said, I can't hear you. I said, great. Now I want you to go ahead and cover your eyes. Now, how do I sound? They said, I sound great. I said, how do I look? I said, I can't see you. And I said, okay, so when you're serious, come back. Because listening is 50% of the experience of a surround sound system and a theater. So I would rather have you spend $2,500 on a TV, $1,500 on a surround sound system, get the right cables and the warranty, and then you're good for 5 years and come back when you're serious. Or you can buy a TV, get it home, and realize, holy crap, I wasted my money on something big and it's half of the experience, and now this sounds like shit,
right.
And I'm not happy. I tell you what, that is exactly how I spoke to customers, and I sold $1.5 million a year in TVs, and I crushed it.
How do you feel about Sonos?
I just sold my
Sonos is good for
Sonos
is good. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just sold my Sonos last year. I mean, it's a great idea. It's basically a Wi-Fi speaker, but there were so many new competitors that were popping up, and with Bluetooth the way it is now, I just didn't need it, I guess.
No.
I love Sonos. I've got 3 of them in my workout room, and it fucking cranks. The software and the compatibility is where it drops. And now with, portable speakers from Apple and, Roku devices, it's just easier. Honestly, Sonos is good, but as a surround sound system, there is nothing like a wired surround downstairs.
Oh, for sure. We haven't finished our theater room, but yeah, no, we have the Sonos upstairs. For downstairs, we'll do the full on legitimate wired in.
Yeah, you get B&W speakers and Denon, and you're
neighbors can hear our Sonos when it's like when we're watching like a crazy movie. It
cranks, man.
And I'm like, sorry, just like text and we'll turn it down. Like it shakes the house. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. So if you want to shake your house, I had my old school, this is, back in the early 90s kind of thing. I had a set of Bose 601 series 3s with the appropriate receiver. They were monsters. And I actually just sold them about 1.5 years, 2 years ago for what I paid for them back in the 90s.
Well, yeah, you can't.
They're amazing.
Yeah,
Rhonda,
but
how many go to the White Elephant parties you go to? Because White Elephant parties I go to are like
$500 speaker for White Elephant. Jeez.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
I think what I'm going to do for this is, along with the TV, I was just going to get a sound bar because the room where it's going to live isn't that big to begin with. So
that doesn't matter. This is what do me a favor. Don't go get a sound bar. Go and look at the Yamaha.
Yeah.
Don't get Bose. What, dude? Bose is shit. No.
No.
There's listen. Okay, you know what? Enough. No, you're not getting a Bose, dude. There's a saying in the freaking audio industry: no highs, no lows, must be Bose. It's just mid-range candy. You're going to lose everything on the 20 megahertz level. Everything over 120 is going to get muddled. Bose is shit. You ever want to listen to 2-channel music and 2-channel audio? Yeah, Bose is great, but it's not surround sound. It's not worthy of a home theater system. The 321 was the closest thing to it, and it was still like $3,400. Get yourself a Yamaha YSP series, and that will give you omnidirectional 360 degree, because what it does is it has 40 speakers in the sound bar, and it will direction everything and bounce off your walls and use the microphone system to actually play sound behind you. The YSP from Yamaha is ridiculous. Or
the YSP from Yamaha?
Yeah, and I'll find out what the version is for you, and I'll make sure.
I was gonna
but
say,
each individual speaker is actually motorized, so it can actually line up, and it will use direction to go ahead and bounce, so it can create sound behind you if you have to. If you have to do it, that's how you do it.
All right, we need to get together. What are you guys doing Sunday? You want to go to church and then go to Tammy's? Because Jason wants to talk about a couple. What's that?
We'll go to Tammy's.
Yeah, come on, go to church.
I'm not going to church with you. No, I'm not. Your pastor won't come. No, it's you. It's me and your pastor, man. He won't come on. I ain't going to his church. How about that?
That's fair. But maybe if you came,
whatever,
and talk to him.
We'll see. We'll talk about it. Yeah, I would love to spend time with Jason. And dude, I thought about opening up my own business because I used to do this professionally, go in and do installs and cut it in and wire and everything. And there's a lot of money in it because people don't know what they're doing. But
yeah,
you just don't go Bose. Bose is the complete ripoff. Like somebody just said, they have Klipsch. Klipsch is good. They're a little tinny, but you just have to have a really good sub to go ahead and wash out some of the tin. But their horns are ridiculous. Honestly, when you get the money, B&W, that's all I use. Like I have B&W throughout with two 3,200 watt subs in the basement. That thing, it's a movie theater. No. It's a freaking movie. It's 7.2 channels. So you've got 7 speakers center, 2 lefts, 2 rights, 2 mids pointing down, and then 2 giant subs, which basically like picture frames knock off the wall. You gotta come over and listen to my system. It's pretty freaking badass.
Yeah.
Okay,
let's get into it. And I have a priest because I'm Catholic.
You have a priest?
Someone asked if I have a priest or a pastor. I go to a Catholic church.
Yeah. So. You know me. I don't. Let's get into the show. Alex is coming in. So good to see you.
Been a little bit.
I miss Alex. Hi, Alex.
A little bit.
It's been a minute.
Right. It's been a minute. What's up, Alex? How's it going, pal?
It's going good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Pretty good, dude. Pretty good. This blue is off. I gotta fix this. This is ridiculous. I can't function.
Bright. It's very bright.
It's not Amy blue. There it is. See?
Yeah.
It's these little things, folks. It's just adding the touches to the show. Folks, if you want to dial in, you can, or if you want to come and see what's going on in the world of Don't Unfriend Me, you can also come in by video like Alex is. Just follow the URL. Let's get into this. I appreciate everybody's patience. Sorry, we got into a little bit of talking about electronics, and that's whatever. It
got him engorged.
Little bit. Okay, so here's the things that we're talking about. I want to play a couple of videos. First of all, I did a show tonight. If you haven't had a chance, go and see it. Folks, do me a favor, number one, and go over to the Don't Unfriend Me show, The Dumb Show, and go pick up some cool hats and shirts and coffee. The site is there for you to peruse. There is plenty of great stuff. Go over there and have a good time. Stop by pfcflags.com to get yourself a wooden flag, the one behind me from Jason and Katie. They're amazing. You can also pick up some coffee at The Dumb Show. Dude, the Betsy Ross is good, but I'll tell you what, the FJB, the Trader Joe's, holy crap, best coffee in the world. It comes in a really cool bag. All right. There's a lot going on.
If you post a picture of yourself in dummy swag,
yes,
you can get a free, is it free? A free hat?
Free hat.
Free hat.
A frickin' free hat. Here, that's a great thing. Let's go look at it. So if you go to the Dumb Show,
awesome hat.
You don't need to go to the Dumb Show. You just need to email owner@don'tunfriendme.com. But I've already got the pictures. Everybody's up. Look at that. Got one of Leroy. There's Leroy. Look at Leroy.
Look at that.
Got one of Ames.
Oh, great. Thanks for choosing that one.
There's a good picture. But anyway, yeah, you can come on here and everybody's got their pictures up. So yeah, you send me in a picture of you listening, and it's not like you have to buy anything. A lot of people are like, I don't have the money to buy, which is totally fine. I get it. If you don't, all you got to do is post a picture of you listening to the Dumb Show. Now, Amy screwed up. Amy basically went like this. She went to her camera, went, and then took a picture. I'm like, dude, it looks like literally you dropped your fucking phone in the toilet. And then what are you doing? You're just sitting on a couch. You're not wearing a freaking Don't Unfriend Me shirt. You're not watching the show. I was listening on the show on my phone. I'm like, you can't be listening to it and taking a picture at the same time. I said, go to a computer and someone needs to help Amy. So can someone please help Amy? Because I'm not sending her a free hat. Screw it.
The other Amy. The other Amy.
Amy Stamcombe needs to figure. She's like, I'm working on getting my picture. What do you have to work on? I mean, you buff floors and you are like custodial arts expert, and you can't figure out how to take a freaking picture and listen to the show. Come on, Amy. God.
Yeah.
All right. I love you, Amy. Amy, you got a picture of you in the car right there. Just turn your phone around. Mother of pearl. All right. Alex, you walked in on a good. Are you wearing a Bose shirt or is that Boss?
Boss. Hugo Boss.
Hugo Boss. Dude, you're such a freaking Russian mobster.
Right? I think that's more of like a German mobster thing, right?
Are you wearing Adidas? Are you wearing Adidas shoes?
I don't have.
Get your gold chain. You smell like Axe body spray. You smell like the freaking turning lane in the Jersey Turnpike. All right. Let's go. I'm in a good mood. Even though we had a snafu tonight. I want to show you a video. This is important. Give this a watch. Try not to throw
elevating people who are denying reality like that.
Well, if you look to the Democrats, their ranking member Raskin had the same thing, denied Trump or Bush was in there. Benny Thompson.
Did you see those numbers that we just put up there? Yeah. 70%.
Did you also be fair and equal where you looked at Raskin did the same thing? Benny Thompson, who's a ranking member and was the chair. These individuals were chair of the Democratic Party.
I'm asking you, as leader of Kevin McCarthy's house, why you made these choices. These were your choices.
Yeah, they're my choices, but they're the conference choices. But I'm also asking you, when you look to see just Republicans, Democrats have done the same thing. So maybe it's not denying. Maybe it's the only opportunity they have to have a question about what went on during the election. So if you want to hold Republicans to that equation, why don't you also hold Democrats? Why don't you hold Jamie Raskin? Why don't you hold Benny Thompson when Democrats had appointed them to be chair? I never once heard you ask Nancy Pelosi or any Democrat that question when they were in power in the majority. When they questioned...
You're talking about things going back to 2000, which was a time when I didn't have this show back then, which is why I'm asking you now about your leadership.
They were in power last Congress. So why...
But you're talking about questions from 2000.
But you're asking me about questions that happened to another Congress. You're asking about questions for another Congress. So the only thing I'm simply talking... These are members who just got elected by their constituents, and we put them into committees, and I'm proud to do it.
Nora O'Donnell is a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay. So
Total
obviously,
hypocrite.
So obviously this is about a couple of things. This is about, okay, Kevin McCarthy. First of all, I want to be clear. If you want to deny the election, I don't care. Like, there's people on here who've done it for years, 2 years, and they'll be like, this is my opinion. I'm like, great, no problem. It's when people say it's fact. Like, that's what blew Seth and I up. Plus the fact that he bought some stuff and thought he owned me. But I am not cool with anyone being like, here's the facts of the case. But if everyone who has an opinion that's wrong ultimately should never serve public office or never have any position of authority simply because they're wrong, well, then nobody should be serving. Kevin McCarthy's absolutely right. He's like, dude, just because they have questions about the election doesn't mean that they shouldn't have positions. And I did a video, 330 some odd different examples of Democrats questioning the election, including Stacey Abrams, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Schumer. All of them have said that Donald Trump was an illegitimate president and didn't win because of Russian collusion. Are you freaking kidding me? Discuss amongst yourselves, because I'm pretty open and cut on this.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's one of those shows that I actually routinely watch. So every Sunday typically is when it's on. And every Sunday, they just further expose the fact that they lean left. They lean so far left that they don't even try to hide the hypocrisy. They just stay on the offensive to make sure that they can keep Republicans on their heels. Doesn't matter who they interview. And if you happen to be a Democrat on the show, she'll throw you some, a slider every now and then, but mostly everything is right out over the plate. Right. And so there's a double standard that happens there where they go in the absolute attack if there's an elephant in the room. And if it happens to be somebody that they agree with, then they're treated with kid gloves.
Would you ever see Nancy Pelosi on Fox?
No.
Of course not.
She had been before, but you would never see her on Fox. McCarthy to go into the lion's den and literally get into a 2-year-old argument of, no, you didn't, I did. It bounces off me and rubbers and glue and sticks to you. He just, he just got, nuh-uh, you did, you did, nuh-uh, you did. And he just literally made that girl look like a complete effing moron. Mm-hmm. In every sense of the word. Listen, McCarthy, this is what I told you when I met the guy. I tried to explain to everyone. Everyone's like, oh, we like him. I'm like, you freaking backpedaling jerks. Of course, you're hesitant about him because you only knew him when he had no power, hardly any responsibility as minority leader. But as majority leader, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's when you find out the true character because they're under the microscope. Because he can always fall back and say, well, we didn't have majority. That's why I wasn't successful. And let's face it, Nancy Pelosi was never going to make any contrition or any signs of smoke in the peace pipe with Republicans because that was go against their entire narrative for 2016 and 2020. But McCarthy's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And you've got to give him credit for that, right? You've got to say he's so far in the first quarter of his speakership, he's doing very well and doing exactly what we anticipated him to do. Anyone disagree?
I don't disagree at all. I'm curious to hear what Alex has to say, but I have a question because I don't know. Has anyone, there's a lot of people who opposed him or that wouldn't vote for him, and this went on for weeks. So are any of those people coming out now and saying they regret not backing him because he is doing what he said he would do? I mean, I think
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, the 20, you have to understand the reason why McCarthy's doing what he said he's going to do is because the 20 held his feet to the flame. Mm-hmm. They got him to sign roughly 9 different things that limited his power or he's going to get replaced. So do I think McCarthy, he showed the ability to work inside the party to bring the party together. This is exactly what we needed. Yeah. And I've always said he was a great orator. He was a great debater. He could challenge things. So I don't think any of those 20 are going to apologize for not doing rank and file. They did their jobs. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to challenge when they don't agree. That's why this CNN hack, if I was McCarthy, I would say, well, you just saw democracy or Republican action and it worked. So what you're saying is that anyone who opposes us, I shouldn't assign to a committee. Well, maybe that's what Nancy Pelosi does, but I don't do that as speaker. I mean, that's all he had to say in the whole conversation. She would have looked like dumber than she already was.
Right.
Alex, are you laughing at American politics and going, just, this is ridiculous. You guys are stupid.
No, not me. But
so what's going on with you, man? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
It's all good. A little bit busy, but all good.
All right. Well, have you been following any of the things that are going on in the Joe Biden?
I barely scratched the verses, but not enough for me to make up an opinion or have a conversation about it. But
how about the Joe Biden classified documents? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, but it doesn't seem that the media really cares about that.
No, they don't. Nobody cares.
Right. You're right.
Now.
Nobody cares.
Nobody
Have you
cares.
heard about Trump's classified documents?
That was a big scandal.
But nobody cares about that either. That's we talked about this tonight, Mike and I, who's an older gentleman who's, I told you guys, special forces bodyguard. He's like 78 now, and he's just a great dude. And we were just talking about this, and I said, people don't care. Like, if the things that Joe Biden has done, and Donald Trump, if it was 1972 or it was Nixon time, he'd be in prison. They would have arrested him and removed him from office. Now nobody gives a shit because the moral fiber of this country is just it's a messy pulp. It's horrible.
But why does presidents and former presidents keep classified papers in their home? Like, doesn't Obama do the same thing? I think I've heard a story that Obama also keeps some classified documents.
Every one of them do. It's ridiculous. First of all, people are like, the vice president has no right to those documents. That's not true. People are so naive. They just don't know. If the vice president is on a task force or he's doing something important for the president, he can get access to SCI. He doesn't have to read it in a skiff. These things are they're rules, but understand is that okay, let's say the vice president is over in Kenya and he's doing a peace finding mission. And then all of a sudden flash traffic comes across that there's some major incident with, I don't know, COVID 2.0 is, well, 7.0 is coming. And he has to go ahead and be briefed on this stuff. He's not going to literally go, oh my God, I got to fly to the Pentagon and get to a skiff. They can brief him on the plane. They can brief him in a secure location. It's not necessarily that certain information can't leave. It's that if it does leave, there are security parameters that are in place. The key with Joe Biden is he kept documents outside of the chain of custody and didn't know it, and they should not have been where they were in an unsecure location. The issue with Donald Trump is that he was subpoenaed to return those documents, which they were, but they belong to the people. They belong to the United States of America, all those documents, and he refused. Those are the only things that took place here where the law was broken. Joe Biden broke the law, and Donald Trump skirted the law and pushed it as far as he could go until they issued a warrant and served on his house. So they're two different situations about the same type of material. Both have the right to have it. Now, some people are like, well, he can't get it as a senator. That's not true. That's not necessarily true. It's not that the president, Leroy, can you please explain to people why SCI and top secret are given and that it's not only designed for the president of the United States? Can you explain that to them?
So all of the members of the IC are granted what we call SCI access, and that basically just means that these people are allowed to handle classified documents, right? But it has to be in a secure location. That's what we call a SCIF. But for the members, when you start talking about political parties, when you start talking about Congress and Senate and people on committees, various committees, I mean, these people they don't necessarily work in a SCIF, right? So it doesn't necessarily require SCI access. Now, where things do get a little fuzzy is where they're able to access some of the stuff. I heard Ted Cruz talking about this today, where he was talking about, he's like, when I was a senator, I would have to go down into the bowels of the
right
of these. I think it was underneath.
It's underground Washington.
Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, underground Washington.
Somewhere.
Yep.
And so he would go in there, and he described it very much almost like you were like he was on the set of Maxwell Smart back in the 70s with the multiple rooms. Right. And so he was describing it. That's where he would read the stuff and then walk out. And he was able to say with relative certainty, hey, he's like, I don't have any classified documents, but not everyone can say that. And he wanted to know, and I think it's a fair question, that if material is required, if it is labeled as SCI, right, how did it get out of there? Now, that being said, again, there's other forms of classified materials. There's classified just plain old secret, where it doesn't have to be necessarily disseminated in a SCIF, and those are likely the types of documents that will be passed around between senators, under the watchful eye of somebody who's a kind of a secondary authority to monitor that document to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So I can see that when you start getting to those upper levels of political leadership, it's not that far a cry to imagine that some of the stuff ends up like in a copy machine where it's there because I needed to make a copy of that one for my memoir later. It's got my name in it, and so there's that. It's something along those lines. It's not that far a cry to think of things of situations like that could happen.
So Kyung says the question is, does senators have a custody of SCI documents, not specific to location, but custody in person outside the SCIF? No, not on a permanent basis. But what I want people to understand is that they think that compartmentalized SCIs are only meant for the president of the United States. Leroy and I have SCI clearance. I don't anymore, but he does. So it's not okay. I can't speak for Leroy. I'll just tell you, I had a higher clearance than the freaking captain of my ship. I had a higher clearance than a 2-star admiral. It just depends on what you're working on. It just depends on what you're doing. And the Senate Oversight Committee has unfettered access to compartmentalized information based upon what they're working on. Now, Joe Biden also
on a need to know.
That's it. That's all it is. And could Joe Biden be working in his home as a senator on SCI material? It would be highly unlikely. It would be highly outside the bounds and parameters of most things. But he was a vice president of the United States, and there is a little bit of leeway when it comes to that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just letting you know that if you expect someone to hold a VP accountable for having SCI documents, or a high-level senator, high-ranking senator, which he was, you're not going to fight that fight. What they need to understand is that what was the chain of custody and why did he keep possession? That is the thing that Joe Biden needs to be held accountable for. Hands down.
We have to understand that really the only reason any of this has been brought to light is because of the raid on Mar-a-Lago, which was purely a political maneuver. Now, the people like myself, like Matt, that have worked with some of the stuff before, we understand that this stuff does eventually grow legs, right? When you're talking at that level of political leadership. So I would have expected Obama and Biden and Pence. I expect that they all have a few pages here and there that they probably keep in their own personal, safes. And that's, I would expect that. But again, the only reason this has been brought to light now is because of the raid on Mar-a-Lago. And up to that point, no one really knew about it. So once the raid on Mar-a-Lago happened, the way it was politicized, was just in a way to give Trump a black eye so that come 2024, that's something that they could use against him. And now you have all of these additional stories of, well, Pence had some, Biden had a lot apparently, and some of it might have even been related to his son and Ukraine. Obama has some. And so now the public is getting this idea that, oh, wait, everyone had it? We should still hang Trump. But yeah, everyone had it.
Right. And that is a perfect point. Two questions real quick. Go ahead, Amy, you first, then I'll do the questions.
I was just going to ask a question. Do you think Mike Pence just felt left out from?
No. Well,
he's trying to get ahead of it.
I did say he's trying to get ahead of it. But see, that's exactly what he's trying to do. And Mike Pence knows that he doesn't have a deep run. But he also knows that the moment that he runs, the question on the debate stage is going to be the following. Mr. Vice President, at any time have you taken top secret security documents home? Right. That's going to be a debate question for everybody. And because they're going to try to hang him with it. So Pence is getting ahead of it, and it's smart, honestly. And plus it takes attention away from everyone else and gives Pence a little bit of a bad boy image, which he's about as fucking bad boy as a good humor man. Pardon the language.
Yeah.
Is he going to run in 2024?
Yeah. Well, no, he's going to primary, and then he's going to get freaking ousted because he'll have less than 1% of the vote because nobody's going to vote for Mike Pence for vice president.
Right.
He's essentially a silver Kamala Harris in popularity.
Yeah, pretty much.
So a couple questions that are good. Who told these lawyers exactly where these documents were? Someone is snitching on Biden. They've been selling our country's secrets for years. I don't know about the country's secrets. I thought people who said that Donald Trump was selling secrets to Russia were completely delusional. I feel the same thing.
When he was first took over as president, that was the immediate assumption, is that he was a planted Russian agent, right?
He was selling secrets.
Those are the stories that were being floated.
Now, did Joe Biden use documents to go ahead and leverage things? That's completely different. But selling secrets, no, I don't believe so. That's not my gut. And with the amount of information that was found, you don't leave a paper trail like this. I'm sorry. It's just, folks, people take things home. Okay, that's just the way it works. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that Leroy and I wouldn't be in prison right now. I'm just letting you know, when you're a VP, when you're a president, when you're a high Senate ranking official, there's a little carte blanche that happens. And if I'm going to tell you that I haven't seen admirals or generals have things that they necessarily shouldn't outside of a skiff, I will 100% tell you yes.
Oh, God, yes. When I was in DJ, Djibouti.
Yeah, we know. I know. I did your booty. I know. I did your booty too.
Well, yeah, but the listeners.
Everyone knows I did your booty.
You'd get several high-level visitors all the time because of the crew that was working there. And so these 2 and 3 stars and 4 stars to come walking through, and they're in a secured skiff, and some of them, actually almost all of them that I had seen, all had smartwatches on. And you're like, you're not supposed to have that, but no, nobody's going to tell them what to do.
I've seen a copier. I've seen a sequence copier that wasn't working, and I've seen a guy literally go down high ranking. Well, I've seen a 1-star go down to PX on side the ship, give them a Kodak freaking instant camera, freaking go down, and then take it down to the photojournalist, tell them to print it and bring the photos back. I don't know what to tell you. Things happen. Bless you, Amy. And when you are a 1-star, you what are you going to do? You're going to go to your command and be like, I want to go ahead and file a complaint. Right. I want to go to my LTJG. I want to go to my light lieutenant and be like, hey, buddy, I want to go ahead and press charges. I want to go ahead and file a formal complaint to this at 1-star. Fucking, your career's over. Just understand that stupid things are done by people with high ranks. And I don't know what to tell you. You improvise. But Joe Biden needs to be held accountable for this reason and this reason alone. The chain of custody is absolutely paramount. And if you are going to keep any type of confidential, classified, I don't care, secret, whatever, Obama could say on a whim that all those documents I declassified verbally. And he can do that. What he can't do is top secret and SCI. No president can do that. And here's how you know. If anyone goes, Matt, you're wrong. No, I'm not. You are. And I'll tell you how I know. The Kennedy documents, Donald Trump tried 3 times to release those and declassify them. He had to go through the DOJ and DOD, and they had to blackline and redact them. If he was able to, all he would say is, go ahead and just can I have these documents? Here you go, everybody. He can't do it, folks. He can't. So this whole bullshit that Trump was okay and he was in the right, stop it. You're just as bad as the Biden supporters. Trump broke the law. Sorry. Sure. Now, he pushed it. He didn't break it. He pushed it. He didn't listen to a court order from the NARA. And he basically said, screw you, I'm the president. Joe Biden didn't even know he had him, which is a whole nother level of incompetence that I can't even get to. They're both wrong for different reasons.
I will say this, that the moment the Trump story got leaked, and I was a little miffed about the whole thing because I knew the reason for it. I mean, I think if you go back and watch that episode, you'd say that, oh, Leroy said right there that, this whole thing was just made political just to, kind of tailor make the 2024 election. So when this whole thing broke, I was very much on the side of like, are you kidding me with this? Like, this isn't real, right? Everyone's all torqued off and there's no reason for it. And then as the other discoveries were being made, as the other documents were being found in other politicians' homes, I was just like, all right, well, if anything, that is only proof positive that you really can't trust any of the politicians with this kind of stuff. No. And that only goes to reinforce my original point, which was if you can't trust any of these peeps in Hollywood, in Washington, if you can't trust them with top secret documents, and can you trust them with your money? Can you trust them?
And more importantly, can you really trust the intelligence community if they're not holding them accountable with operational security? It goes both ways, right?
Sure. And can you trust them by trading portions of your liberty with something that you think that they're going to vote for you on?
Yeah.
And if you can't, then you need to hold on to that liberty.
Amen.
You need to make sure that you are limiting the government as much as you can with your votes.
Yep.
Amy, did you have something?
I mean, no, I really don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I was.
You don't have to. It's the next one that you're going to be dialed into. This is a little different, and people are asking questions that's more technical. I get it. I mean,
no, I get it. I could be technical-ish, like
not with this. You've never done it before. How would you be?
No, I know. I don't. Yeah, I've never been in this situation. But speaking as like a citizen of the United States, yes, I look at it through that lens as. But I also question things, right? So as someone who's not totally dialed in to every nuance of the political system and why things are important, it comes back to what you were first saying. They wanted to go after Trump. They wanted to find a reason to take him down or paint him as having a blemish. But when everybody else has the same blemishes, like, well, you can't ignore it. It clearly becomes less important. Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe we should not just gloss over all these things, but it's not that important, right? I don't know. I don't know what's in the documents, so I don't know how important
it is.
they are.
It's important. It's just not important. There's different sets of rules for them versus us. And that level of contradiction and hypocrisy is ever present in everything, about taxes, about healthcare, about shutdowns, about going and getting a haircut during COVID and not. I mean, this isn't but we know this. I mean, there is this, it's not duplicity. It's,
duality.
Thank you. Yeah. Duality between who we are and who they are. And this is, this has been done in books. This has been in 1984. This was done in Orwell. This was done in the Mongoloids and the, whatever, Slee Stacks. I know it's not the name of them, but we've all read the stories of this subservient class to the hierarchy, and there's rules for them. That's why we're not a republic. And I've said it 1,000 times. We're not a nation of laws, because there's laws for them and then there's laws for us. That is a monarchy. That is a tyrannical form of rule. That is an oligarchy. It has nothing to do with being a republic, because the rule of law is the most sound thing and the only provisional moniker for a republic. And it's empowered by the people, the individual rights. Well, if Joe Biden can get away with this, if Hillary Clinton can get away with this, if Donald Trump cannot, be scrutinized, which he should be, then there's this duality that is all of a facade.
Sure.
So let me get to this question with Thomas real quick, because it's been looming. Matt, does your classification end when you leave the military? No. Okay. Or continue like the members of the government? Ours ends with our service, although mine is good to 2024. I retired June 19th of this year. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you the best thing that I can tell you. Leroy will probably agree, but we'll see. What I would always do, if there was a 1-year TDY and it allowed me to up my clearance for another 4 or 5 years or whatever it is, sometimes they're 2 years, sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's longer than that. I would try to have them re-up, because that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in the private sector. If your security clearance ends when your service ends, when you're looking for a job, you're going to be asked, especially in Virginia, Washington, D.C., which everything's intelligence here, is, do you have an active clearance? And if it's no, they're going to hire someone with an active versus you, because they don't have to pay those hundreds of thousands of dollars because you still have an active clearance. Now, my clearance, when I got out, it was still good for another 5 years. Things have changed. After 9/11, with some of the things that happened with Snowden, things have changed. But my commitment, there are things that I could talk about after 10. There were things I wasn't allowed to talk about till after 30. And there's things I'm never allowed to talk about. Leroy, you tell me if that's right or wrong.
Spot on. The big thing, I'm just going to foot stomp what Matt said in terms of the, let's say your clearance is still valid after you've already separated from the military. Okay, well, that's a good thing, because any contractor company that you would go to do whatever, they can still use that clearance. You're still going to be, it used to be, God, I can't remember the name of the system because it's old now. They replaced it with a new system that I don't even want to say, that tracks everyone's clearances. So you would basically go to your contracting company and they're going to look it up in this system. And once they see you in there, you're already adjudicated. They don't have to do anything more for you. All they got to get you to do is fill out your tax forms and you're off to the races. Mm-hmm. But if they have to pay for the clearance or the background check for you, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And so it would behoove you to not use that clearance while it's still active.
And what Leroy just said, to double, triple foot stomp on that, it's just like Gattaca. It's all about your helix, right? You walk in and they're like, what about the interview? And they pricked his finger and they're like, that was the interview. Right. So that's it, depending upon your clearance and what you have. That isn't class, by the way, DISS. Is that the system you're talking about? Track DISS. Track your clearance. Yeah.
I didn't know if you could say that.
You can say it.
I've never seen it. So
Yeah, I figured I would let the cat out of the bag. What are they going to do to me? I'm not going to get court-martialed. So, yeah. So, captain's mask. Fuck you. So,
Leroy.
no, not for that. Not for that. I mean, hell, I did say on a show like 3 months ago where Leroy literally shat his chair about a system that has the ability to track, and he's like, shit, Matt. But once again, I can source where I found that information in an unclassed source. So I will never say anything that's classed, but if it's been said in an unclassed source, I can repeat it with no fear. Right. Unless I've been briefed otherwise, which I wouldn't be because I'm a civilian. But Leroy doesn't have that luxury. Leroy is bound even by the signs of impropriety. He is bound by that honor code. I'm no longer bound by any of that. Except for the things that I can't say.
My last name is not Clinton or Biden. So there you go.
Right.
Getting to a couple of other questions.
One can dream.
Maria says, Pence said he didn't have any classified documents, but found out he did. Correct.
Pete Sajak, if I'm pronouncing that right, says, maybe you guys can comment on who/agency determines what is our secret documents. So when we're talking about that kind of thing, those are called OCAs. They're the original classification authorities, and that's a very high level type position. Not everyone gets it. Most everyone is able to, if you pull a line from a document that is classified, then when you reproduce that line in the new document, that new document has to be at least classified to the same level as the original document. And that's the kind of level where 90% of the intelligence community is at. What you're talking about, the people that would actually make those calls to say, all right, we're going to make this one a top secret and this one over here is going to be secret. Those people are called OCAs. They're called original classification authorities. And that's no one that I've ever even met.
Oh.
Yep. And association is a pain in the ass. And that is why chain of custody is so crucial and critical to operational security when it comes to classified information. It's because any piece of information that derived from that's OCA classified is also, like Leroy said, at that same level. And that just happens by osmosis. So let's just say this. A piece of human intelligence comes in that says A, B, and C. And from A, B, and C, A1, B1, and C. See, Alex, I'm so sorry, buddy. I didn't mean that. Bye, Alex. Alex left.
Bye, Alex. We already miss you.
Like most Europeans, he just ghosts us and just poofs. I feel bad. But anyway, so my point is that immediately OCA classifications are parents. You don't have subtext. So for instance, because this information is necessarily not relevant, but it was sourced from the same collection methods, it immediately goes into that classification, and it's not subservient in the hierarchy. It's exactly at the same level. That is where you have when you read somebody in, you have to be very, very careful when you're granting access to that. Not something that Leroy and I ever have the ability to do is read people in unless we're asked to do so. Right. Is when you do, you're now expanding the profile of what that person knows. And let me just put it this way. When in doubt, classify at the same level. That's it. Yep. That's it. When in doubt, highest level clearance that it's associated from. And that is Joe Biden. That's why that chain of custody is so important for Biden. What did he collect? What did he know? What did he gain from it? What information did he collect from it? And if he used that in any way, shape, or form to influence a foreign government or a business or this or that,
that's spillage. And anything that he would have passed along without proper
has to be classed,
right? That's spillage.
And it's dangerous because he's essentially, see, this is why Leroy and I get so fucking shit, because what he did, he broke the fucking basic rule of classification, is that you don't have the power to read people in. And if you do, anything you gain from that has to be debriefed and has to be passed down and classified to the same level as well. Otherwise, not only is it spillage, you have a breach. You have information that's uncontained and unsecure in the ether with people who have no reason to know it. That's dangerous.
So here's a great example. And I don't want to give too much away, but I do feel like this is a valid enough story, and I can leave enough of it out that people will still understand. Let's say you did this thing in the military, and then what we were talking about earlier with your security clearance, your security clearance is still good, but you get out. And you're like, you know what? I serve my country. I'm going to go make bank. I'm going to become a contractor. You join to become a contractor, right? And they ask you to put together a resume. You put together your resume. You send that in. Okay. Now, your resume should be completely stuff that is unclassified. But you screwed up, right? You're like, you know what? I did this really cool high-speed thing, and I did this really cool high-speed thing.
High-speed, low drag.
And you email that in.
You're fucked.
This is the level to which things get scrutinized and things get literally confiscated. So you email that in, okay? The government person on the other side of that now says, oh, look, fuck. Now they have to report to their security manager because their unclassified system, their hard drive needs to be seized. The person who compiled the resume, his hard drive now needs to be seized, erased. Any systems that email would have gone through, right? They have to be purged from there. And so when we're talking, and those are just, one or two lines that were taken. Oh, I did this really cool thing, right? So when we're listening to the news talk about, oh, this person had, unclassified documents stacked this high in his unlocked garage, you're like, are you fucking me? Because there's no way that should be allowed. I've seen people go to Leavenworth for far, far less.
And when you contract, see that he's also talking about contract tracing, which isn't just for COVID, but it's an intelligence term where essentially anything that entered anybody's orbit.
Yeah.
So if one touched one and then, okay, let me give you an example. Everyone's like, Hillary Clinton had 32 classified no.
Right.
She had hundreds of thousands of breaches. I thought you were going to say
32,000.
No, hundreds of thousands, because every time she sent out an email that's class, those people, if they forwarded it, it's like AIDS. It's like herpes. It's like a zombie apocalypse. You can just see it fucking mutating exponentially. And that is why security breaches that's why Edward Snowden was untouchable once he did it. Because if you think that the alphabet agencies didn't want to liquidate Edwards, you're insane. I guarantee they wanted to liquidate his ass. But the fact that he put it to multiple sources and got it spread out on multiple contexts, multiple continents as quickly as he did, essentially, it was already done. And then if you take him out, it's too late. But the point is that every time it touches another person, another computer, you can add 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, because those people don't know what they're looking at. And they see it and go, oh, that's cool. I'm going to go ahead and forward that to my entire friends list. Once you've done that, it's over.
It's
so dangerous.
Then you can't get the genie back in the bottle. And that's why some of these alphabet agencies, they go through everything they have to reacquire hard drives and purge things from God knows where. So,
and that's when the government realized that little program that I mentioned that I can't mention again is a lot easier just to say, okay, we've got a breach, or we don't have time for a warrant. We don't have time for FISA, or we do. Let's go ahead and manipulate the FISA warrant. And now we can go ahead and go into every one of these systems remotely and get what we need. And that's where you're fuzzing the lines of liberty. And I just, folks, your number one job as an intel professional is to protect your sources of collection and protect the information that you have collected.
Yeah.
And also the last thing is to present that information and disseminate that information in a truthful and accurate manner. If you don't do those three things, you're a shitbag. Period. Quick question from Carrie. Says, what exactly does your security clearance mean? Do you get daily briefings or is it just past info? Just curious. President of the United States absolutely can take advantage of briefings daily. George Bush did it until the day he died, senior. But this guy was, he was an intel fat cat for most of his life.
George Bush was, wasn't he the head of the CIA for?
He was the head of the CIA. No, he did not kill Kennedy. Everyone shut up. That was 14 years later before he even popped first cherry inside the Central Intelligence Agency. But the point is, for Leroy and I, a clearance isn't daily briefings, although that's what you do. For instance, my job as an intelligence specialist was to gather intelligence, disseminate intelligence, brief and debrief, and to monitor and collect data, and then educate the people who needed to be educated based on that information. A clearance says that you are at a certain level to be able to come in and work and manipulate certain intelligence that's not code word specific in pretty much any situation. Once you start getting in the top secret and SCI, you have to have access and be granted access to work on those projects. So when you're talking about top secret and SCI, it's not like because I have a top secret clearance, I can just walk in the middle of NORAD and say, hey, where are all the motherfucking codes at?
Yeah, doesn't work that way.
Can't do that. But if I get assigned to work in NORAD to do some sort of counter intelligence operation or work on a strike package or do a team assessment on something, which I'm being very non-specific, and I'm assigned to do that, I would have unfettered access to anything inside that compartmentalization and nothing else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm just picturing you walk into NORAD.
Where are all the motherfucking codes at?
Yeah, just...
All right. I'm just making sure we're good on this topic.
Yeah, I think we've
I think we have too.
That one.
I think we're good. How are you doing tonight, Leroy? Amy Rhiannon says, hi, Rhiannon. I have a question. How is the attorneys permitted to even seek for classified documents? I know how that works. Okay. Okay, here's the thing. Okay. Every single person here who has smelled marijuana and never smelled marijuana before knew they were smelling marijuana when they did.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? Because some things you just know. Like you never stick your penis anywhere near a woman with a dragon tattoo who plays poker. Okay? You just know. You can.
Who holds the cigarette between her teeth. You know?
And has a backpack full of ping pong balls. It's not the woman you sleep with. At least without wrapping the Jimmy twice. You just know. You also know not to jump off of a cliff. At a very early age, knowing this will be bad. Some things don't require experiential learning to know. And if you run across classified documents, you'll know. Because there will be big giant letters that say so. And you will have to manipulate, navigate through things that are designed not to be opened without letting you know, hey, this is a woman with a dragon tattoo or dagger tattoo who plays poker. You might not want to go playing around in this playground. So when these lawyers came across this information, whether they were there to harm Joe or not, I mean, there's all conspiracy theories about people's intents. This is politics, folks. It's Washington, D.C. This is why Teddy Kennedy didn't get away with Chappaquiddick. Even though all the freaking cops were paid off, the FBI was paid off, everyone was paid off. He had every reason to get away with it. He was one of the richest families in America, and he still did get away with it because you have political enemies. That's neither here nor there. It's not the question you ask.
It is highly probable that a lawyer who comes across a document like that, right, at the conclusion of whatever the case is, right? So let's say it's Hillary or, whatever, it doesn't matter. At the conclusion of that, some government official will then go up to the lawyer and get them to sign an NDA.
Mm-hmm.
You can't ever talk about what that was, what that document was, right? Ever. And, you may continue to practice, be on your way.
And NDAs, it's scary. Now, lawyers deal with NDAs all the time, but this is a different type of NDA. Very seldom do NDAs say you will be hung by your balls until dead. Because essentially this NDA is like, we will throw you in Chateau d'If for the rest of your life. It's not, these NDAs are serious. They talk about the repercussions if you do leak this information. So we've went through this ad nauseum. I want to show another video real quick, and then and Amy will get in on this one. I think we're going to let her start this out for us. This is Whoopi Goldberg. And what would a show be without Whoopi being racist? Okay, can I? Okay, I'm not going to say anything. We're going to watch this, then we'll talk. Here we go.
When will the brutality finally lead to some police reform from the ground up? Because clearly, it doesn't matter if it's a white policeman or a black policeman. It is a problem in the police, in the policing itself. Seems things don't seem to make sense to people unless it's somebody they can feel or they can recognize. But how many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything? I'm not suggesting that. So don't write us and tell me what a racist I am. I'm just asking, is that what people have to see in order to wake up and realize this affects us all?
Before we get into this, you're a racist. She's a racist.
She acknowledged it right there, though. She just acknowledged it. Don't write to me and tell me what a racist I am. She already said that. She acknowledged. I already know. No reason to tell me, people.
This woman has been suspended from her job twice. She has literally said anti-Semitic and racist shit 7 to 8 times that she's had to apologize for on air. Okay.
Here's the
I'm going to stop and let you guys talk about her, but I want to get to Pete's question. He goes, so to understand correctly, you can cut and copy something classified. It should be at the same level of classification, but if it's not, it can be sent to essentially anyone in the government circles. They're not blocked by not being on a classification list. No. There are different levels of classification. You have secret, you have classified, you have sensitive, you have different levels, eyes only, whatever. Most information that has a classification on it should not be sent without stopping and thinking. But if you have somebody who has, okay, here, for instance, every single person on a ship has a clearance except a few classes. Boatswain's mate. Cooks, shopkeepers actually do, but there are several classes. That person, if you have sensitive information and they have no reason to be notified on that information, they are not to be notified. But there is basic information like training. Damage control training is a sensitive. Certain areas of DC training, you have to go into sensitive areas to work in. You would be required for you to have a classification. And that minimal classification is good for everybody who has a clearance.
Right.
If you do not possess a clearance, if you have not went through a background check and you have not been properly vetted, you have no right to that information in any way, shape, or form. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. For Whoopi,
yes.
I think that the great irony is that because the left eats its own, that what's going to happen is, after she basically outed herself as a racist, that the same cancel culture that she once advocated for in terms of, oh yeah, we need to kick Donald Trump off of Twitter. Nobody needs to see that, right? It's that same type of thinking that will lead to her being canceled and being let go from her current position. I'm not saying it's a done deal. Obviously, this is just a prediction. And if anything else, if it does come true, you guys can come back to this episode and go, damn it, he was right. Because once you accept that there are exceptions to free speech, then you have to accept that those exceptions will eventually be used against you. That's the problem. And people like Whoopi are too short-sighted to realize that, hey, look, if I'm advocating for this person to be, strung up because I don't like what they say, then somebody else is going to do it to them. And that's exactly what's happening. She is basically outed herself saying, hey, look, don't write to me because, I'm all calling me a racist or anything, even though you basically admitted that you are.
Right.
Ames?
Yes, she is a horrible racist. I don't like her. I haven't liked her, I don't think, ever. Even back when
what
she
about
was
Sister Act?
You know what? I think I was one
Fuck
of
that
the
movie.
few people in America who did not enjoy that movie.
I didn't like that movie either. I thought it was stupid.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
I hated her in Ghost. I didn't hate her. I didn't like her in Ghost either. I thought she was completely out of place. Of course you
And
did.
I like her in Star Trek.
The fact that you watched Ghost says a lot about you.
Yeah.
Do you want to recreate the clay scene? I'll do it.
I was making out with my my wife back when we were dating then. So yeah.
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 Well, there you
I was
go.
in the Philippines. I was sleeping with a bunch of different. I'm sorry, Amy. What?
Yeah. True to form, I didn't see that movie until about 10 years after it came out. So I've never strayed from my movie watching timeline. I will say this. I don't know the accurate ratings numbers for The View, but I would be curious to know how many people watch The View, and then as a sub question there, how many people that watch The View find value in her commentary? Because
Holy shit!
is it a lot?
2.4 million.
Jesus.
A day.
A day? I was gonna say like a month. I don't know.
A day.
A day?
That's
holy
huge.
cannoli.
That's like up there with some of the top Fox programs, folks, and ABC, CBS, and the morning shows, etc.
That's shocking. And now I feel like I should tune in once in a while to see what they're saying, because I do like to see what other people are saying in our world. Two, I don't know the statistics on the amount of violence that's committed against people who are not Black. I mean, I'm not just talking about whites, but Asians, Hispanics.
That was my comment.
Against police. But I'm sure those numbers are actually on par or higher, I would guess, but just by the ratio of different ethnicities in our country, whites versus any other skin color, if you want to classify it by that or whatever. I really think this defund the police movement has been short-sighted, and I think they're really missing the point of, we're reallocating funds. Well, if you go into, and this has been proven for about a year now, if you go into the cities that are so desperate to be reformed and who actually need the police to be present, the citizens of those places are not asking for less police presence. They are not wanting to have less police around. Yes, there are bad cops. There's bad doctors. There's bad judges. There's bad accountants. There are bad in every part of our life. And that's unfortunate, but that is this world that we live in, and we have to find a way to deal with it without punishing the masses for a few bad apples, so to speak. That's a bad analogy, but I mean, yes, these people should pay for what they did to this young man. It's abhorrent. It's horrible.
Oh yeah,
I still haven't watched the video, and I have no desire to. But
you shouldn't.
I'm not going to. I thought about it. I know that my mentality, especially where I am right now, I can't handle it. It's unfortunate. I'm sure I can guess maybe how horrible it is, and then add that 1,000 times. It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic.
Yeah.
It's sad that this happened, but she's crazy. I'm sorry. That's it.
The View could actually be made to be useful. Honestly, it could, if they were to shake things up a little bit, right? get rid of these far left wing, or if
Yeah.
you're going to do that, who have two, libertarians on the show too, right?
Yeah.
Something to balance it out.
Right. They used to have
That's the problem.
conservatives on the show, didn't they?
Well, they do. They have one sacrificial conservative.
Oh, I don't know her name.
Always.
Yeah,
It
what's
was
her name?
Meghan McCain, then she quit. Then it was the girl from Fox, she quit. Now it's this wannabe never Trumper. Listen, I got to get into this a little bit because this is frustrating the shite out of me, and I got to say it. And I'll make the point which usually people don't. Debbie, I do not have an OnlyFans channel, and it's been like 6 months since anyone said that. Please don't bring that rumor back up again. Fuck, I'm so sick of that. People, what's your OnlyFans? I heard you had an OnlyFans. I don't have a fucking OnlyFans. Okay, are you kidding me? All right. I know Debbie was joking, but seriously. All right. First of all, I don't care. Allergies. God. I don't care.
Bad lately,
Dude,
by the way. Mine are horrible.
Yeah, we haven't any snow to knock all the pollen off the trees.
My throat's so sore, and it's just the allergies.
We've had it here.
We
had plenty of snow.
We haven't had one drop of snow in Virginia. We had like 5 minutes of flurries. No snow. Unfreaking real. I'm so sick of it. I'm pissed. All right.
Especially because the persimmons predicted a lot of snow this year.
It's all going to come down. If the average snowfall happens, no matter what, it's going to snow. It's got to snow. It's just going to have one big storm. It's going to give us everything in February. I know we're going to get hammered. God, I hope. All right. I don't care that Whoopi Goldberg says, to paraphrase, that white people need to be beat in order for, people to pay attention. I don't think that statement's horribly racist. I don't. I think it's factual. I think she's right in the sense that people relate to their demographic. And there's nothing better than this when you actually listen to the movie A Time to Kill with Matthew McConaughey and the little black girl who is raped and hung and they left her for dead. And in his closing argument, he goes through this and talks about how she's urinated on and covered in semen and horrible shit that your mind is just going, oh my God. But then he goes, now I want you to imagine if she's white. And like the whole frickin' place goes, holy shit. Okay. So in a very inarticulate way, that's what she was trying to say.
Right.
Horribly stated. But here's the problem. Her statement is a fallacy. That's what I take issue, which makes it racist.
Right.
Because she's saying that white people aren't beaten by cops, which is a complete fucking lie.
Right.
It is.
Right.
It is a lie, and it's insurmountably inaccurate. And I'll tell you why.
Why
because
don't we see that?
Hold on. You already had your chance. More white people are shot by officers than black people.
Yeah.
But proportionately, more are shot. Well, whether you want to admit it or not, it really sucks. But black people commit more crime.
Right.
And you can sit here and say that that's not true, but it is true. And the reason why it's true is because the major cities, 35 major cities in the United States, every one of them but 3 of them are all democratically run, which impact the state. And then people go, well, those red states, they're a bunch of crime. Well, the reason why is because there's these giant cities and the rural population can't compete with per capita. It comes down to this, is that her comment is lying about a particular race of people, and white people who own a majority of the population, a majority in the United States of America, do not commit as much crime as African Americans. And that is just the truth. And it has nothing to do with the color of the skin. It has everything to do with the opportunities and where you live. And unfortunately, democratically run cities have been creating these modern day slave plantations for 70 years. So if Whoopi truly wants to get out of this, she needs to say on her show that has 2.4 million people a day to watch it and say, stop voting for Democratic policies. I'm not telling you to vote for Republicans. Just stop voting for Democrats and putting them back in power because they have done shit for us in 75 years. Go ahead, Leroy.
Well, what I was asking was, why don't we ever hear about it then? But I mean, I think the question, the answer to that question is actually pretty obvious. It's because when a white person is beaten in the streets, right? Nobody really cares, right? If it's a white on white, if it's a white cop beating up a white dude, everyone's just going to say, well, what'd the guy do? Nobody really, he probably got drunk and went out of line again, got out of line again. Did he have it coming to him? Who knows, right? Those are the types of conversations that are had. But the moment we change those colors around a little bit, people start noticing, then they want to know, well, wait, was it racially, was it racial? Was this a racial thing? Was a cop targeting him? Did he pull him over for no reason whatsoever and then like pull him out of the car? And people want to know then, right? So numerically speaking, to what Matt is talking about, statistically speaking, yes, whites are beaten by cops. Whites get shot by cops.
Right.
You know, just as probably more so whites are just as resistant to arrest.
There were more white unarmed shootings than black.
But we don't
more
hear
white
about
unarmed shootings than black.
But we don't hear about it because the media doesn't. They don't care. That's not the narrative that they need to maintain current voting patterns.
Right. And that's where I find our country to be in such a danger. I really do. It's across the board right now for me. And I hate bringing this up, but it's true. Women, actual biological women who are born with a vagina.
I'm offended.
I know, but it's relevant to the story because it's like we're being marginalized, but we can't speak up about it because then we're the bad people for speaking up about it. And this is the same thing with this. You know, no one wants to see, at least I would hope not. I think the majority of sane, rational thinking people don't ever want to see brutality against anyone coming from anyone, any group of people, any authoritative person, group of people.
Either one works.
We don't want to see the brutality. Period. End of story. We don't want to see this happen. No one should lose their life this way at the hand of someone else, and it should not happen. Unfortunately, we live in a world where these things do happen, and you can't take away something to make it stop. You can't do something about the situations to make it stop. You have to change the actual people. You have to be better about vetting people, doing the psychological test, training people the proper way, having the right mentors for these young men on the police force, men and women, I should say, on the police force. It's not just a 1 person or a 5 person thing. It is a bigger issue. I agree with that. But this is not a take money away from the police and punish all the white people and the white police officers for one unfortunate event. And this was one unfortunate event. I'm not saying there's not others, but this is a specific event in time. It sucks.
No, it's fucking terrible.
I want to be clear. There's people in chat saying, well, white people have a higher probability of being killed by police. That's not true. That's a lie. Roughly 64% non-Hispanic. You add Hispanic, it's 67% of the population is white. It's a large number. You're running from a demographic of anywhere from 13 to 16% African-American identified, even with mixed race there. Proportionately, it's not even close. You have more of a chance of dying by the hand of police with black because the population's so low, but that's the only reason.
Right.
It's not like you go ahead and put 100 white people in a room and 100 black people are in a city, and that, you know, you're still going to have maybe 10 or 12 white people who are criminals who are going to get shot by police or get arrested or whatever. And you're based on the numbers, you're going to see anywhere from, 22 to 23% based upon criminality in the African-American race. But proportionately, the numbers are relatively the same. In fact, whites commit a lot more crime in some cases when it comes to African-Americans. Violent crime is predominantly owned by African-Americans, though. That's what you need to understand. And hold on, man.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know you're excited. I'm trying to get through a couple things here. Anyway, go ahead, Leroy. You're good.
No, I was just wondering. I wonder what the demographic breakdown of the View audience is, because to your point, the numbers are definitely biased, right? And so just the statistics themselves, right? And so when we're hearing about a black on black crime from these 5 cops beating an unarmed black man to death, right? And then I've got the host from The View, a black woman, saying this is wrong, and roughly, X% of you people, this is partially your fault, right? And I feel like I'm the one getting lecture, and I didn't have anything to do with it.
Right.
I'm just wondering what the demographic breakdown of The View is.
So I'll tell you. So out of 2.392 million people, women 25 to 54, 9%. 306,000. 18 to 49, 14%, 226,000. You're looking at no breakdown for color because they can't.
Right.
So Nielsen ratings don't break down for color. But if you break down the average population and look at the average population, but predominantly of the panel size, and I hate to say that, you have 2 African Americans on the panel, is you're going to find more African American poll on that show. And it is the #1 most viewed daytime show in America.
Wow. I'm going to have to watch it one day. I swear. I really am. Not tomorrow, but I'm going to watch it one day.
But see, this is the problem with this whole thing, is that the information coming out of The View is editorialization. There's no fact.
Right.
It's always opinion. And that's the problem with Sean Hannity. But Sean Hannity admits he's an opinion show.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker admits he's an opinion show. You know what you're going to get. The View are passing it off, and what they start their show with always is, listen, you can get the real information here. Here's the truth. And it's not the truth. It's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And when anyone says that proportionately white people have it better from criminal convictions than African Americans, it's a lie. It's a complete lie.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And if people say, well, the drug sentences for crack cocaine aren't the same as methamphetamine, bullshit, they're not. They absolutely are. They're both equally as harsh. It's 30 years mandatory. So I understand what people are saying, and here's where the reality comes out. If people say, well, police officers hound African Americans, listen to me. Do you believe that a cop is going to make a choice and say, I want to go into the most dangerous place I possibly can on my shift today? Right. Are you fucking kidding me? That's where the crime is. They go where the trouble is. They don't go to Beverly Hills. If they could choose where they want to go, and they're choosing to be racist, then why not just fucking go with white people and go to Beverly Hills? Well, because that's not where the crime is. So you go to Hollywood, you go to Crenshaw, you go to Baltimore, you go to the places where crime is. Love you, sweetheart. Oh. And that's where you go because that's your job.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that, now, are there racist police? Of course, there's racist bakers. There's racist politicians. You have racist football players. Of course. But what you're saying is that there is a systemic prejudice inside the police force, and I completely, vehemently disagree with you. I think there is a racist presence in our criminal justice system and sentencing and our insurance practices. Those are the two where systemic racism is still, but that is not inherent by any laws. Those are private fucking companies doing things that are unethical, and they need oversight. Go ahead.
Yes. Can I just share a really quick story about this? I think it kind of relates. The ride along that I did over the summertime, one of the deputies that I was with, and she was a female deputy, and they don't like to be called officer, sorry. And I when her and I were riding along, this was past 10 o'clock, I don't know, 11 something. It was later at night. Might have been later than that even. It was a Friday night, and we were actually in your neck of the woods there, Matt. And there were about 5 or 6 young men just loitering, and someone had called and said, like, hey, there's these guys loitering, and they didn't give a description of them. They just said there's like teenagers, they're loitering, they're being loud. This isn't a residential neighborhood. So of course, like, we went over there, checked it out. And the one time I couldn't get out of the car, though. She's like, you stay here. So she gets out. I had my window down so I could hear the whole conversation. All of these young men, none of them were, I think one was 21, one out of all of them. None of them had ID on them except for the one who was of age. But they were all of, I don't know, Hispanic, Latinx, whatever you pick the term you want to use, but they were all of Hispanic, Latin descent, which in our area is not uncommon, but if they were white kids, we would have also stopped them. That's my point. It's not like someone's reporting, like there are teenage kids hanging out on a Friday night at a time that they should be in their homes asleep, or at least at home playing video games, not loitering on a street corner in a very residential neighborhood. There is no stores open. There is nothing where we live. There's not even like a convenience store open that late at night here, a gas station, nothing. And they're hanging out, and it's like, well, you have to think about where these things are happening, who's being targeted, but we didn't see any other children out that night. And I say children because some of them were 16, 17, 18 years old. They were truly children hanging out too late at night with their cousins or whatever. That's what they told us or told her. And it's like, well, please take in consideration who are doing these things. Where were their parents? I don't know. Maybe they just needed a break. I don't know. No judgments here, but please take that into consideration. Like where Matt and I live is the population's pretty much not diverse. It's mostly white. You have some Hispanics, you have very few blacks, you have probably more Indian and Asian culture here. But it's mostly white. So you might think that people are being targeted because of their skin color, but no, it's just that's
targeted because you're committing crime.
Right, exactly. That's what it is. You're doing something that looks suspicious. We live in a safe area, and so if you're doing something that looks suspicious, the police here are going to stop you. They're going to question you, no matter what color your skin is, no matter how old you are.
Right.
They're going to stop you and say, what are you doing on the street corner at whatever time it is at night? This is not okay. Where are your parents? Where do you live? Why aren't you at home? You should be in bed. Go home.
Stop breaking the fucking law.
Right. I mean, they weren't technically breaking the law, but it was very
They're loitering. Yes, it is. It's breaking the law. I'm sorry. It's breaking the law. If you're out after curfew or what's considered curfew for a certain age, and you are in an area that you don't need to be in, you're loitering.
Yeah.
And it's go home. Go home to your parents. Listen, this is the one thing I don't understand about cops. I'll say it again. If cops are choosing where they want to go, then why don't they go to the safest parts of the neighborhood? Because guess what they did in Los Angeles after Rodney King? They pulled out of the ghettos. The left was so horrible. And the ACLU and the freaking Rainbow Coalition lawyers after Rodney King, that Gates pulled out and said, screw it. We just won't monitor those neighborhoods. And they burned. And people said, why aren't you doing your job? It's like, because we go in there and we get killed. And we're not going to do it. Minnesota did this same exact thing. And it's amazing that when you talk to the communities, the people who have businesses and the mom and dads are trying to raise a family, they want the police there. They got no problem with the cops. It's the people who are committing the crime who want the cops to go away. And that's who we're fucking listening to. Why? Well, Saul Alinsky's playbook. That's why you focus on the criminal element of society, the downtrodden parts of society, to keep people in line, and think that you need government to go ahead and fix it, when all it takes is a baseball bat and the frickin' civilians and citizens of that city and of that town and of that neighborhood to take it the fuck back. Go ahead, Leroy. Yeah.
Do you think that that's when they do pull out like that, after an event like this, what happened in Memphis? Do you think that when they pull out, and like with the event that you just talked about, do you think that's an overcompensation or like an overreaction to say
for Memphis, it would be. You should have community outreach reached up to a level 10. You should have officers knocking doors and apologizing to the community for what those 5 did. They just fired 3 firemen too, who did not perform the right type of EMS to the victim. They fired the 3 firefighters who went there and the first responders. They fired them too. This is going to go down to hospital staff. Everyone's going to get canned for this. This was a huge mess up. This is when you lean into, you tilt, you don't withdraw. But in the case of Rodney King and Watts and Crenshaw, yeah, those cops were like, we need to go in. They started handcuffing the police. They took away their freaking shotguns. They took away their automatic weapons. They told them to go in there with 9mm Berettas. And they're like, these guys got Mac 10s and Tech 9s. I'm not going in there with a 9mm.
Right.
And so Gates said, fuck it, let it burn. We'll pull out. The police, their job is to protect and to serve. It's not to die and get slaughtered. Their mission isn't to go into the fray and trade bullets with people. That is a last resort. Their job is to protect and to serve. And when the own community is rising up against them and terminating them based upon the color of uniform they wear, this is no longer a protect and to serve. It's to defend and survive.
Yes,
so I happen to agree with the cops pulling out of some of these. I think it's great what they did in Minnesota. I think it's great what they did in Oregon. It sent a message until those cities came and cried back and said, why can't we hire anybody? Because nobody wants to work for your piece of shit city. That's why.
Can I add just something to that point? Matt and I live in if it's not the number one, we're usually either 1, 2, or 3 in the slot of the safest counties in the nation to live in.
Here?
Yes, here.
It is the safest, and it's like the highest employment rate.
1, 2, or 3. Yeah,
it's
I don't
huge.
know. It changes every year marginally, but we're always in the 1, 2, or 3. So we live in the safest county in the nation. Out of everywhere, all the states, we are in one of the safest, if not the safest. I happen to be friendly with, some of the deputies, sheriffs in our area, and they don't open up to me as much as they would their family, of course, but some of them have shared stories with me and their mental health struggles, because it's something that I do truly care about, and I maybe push a little bit harder than I should with some of them, but I care about them. But we live in one of the safest places, is my point. Some of our deputies are struggling with mental health things because of the things that they have witnessed, things that they have had to intervene on, the calls that they have had to get in the safest county in the nation. These men and women are struggling and having to seek private therapy because they can't go through the public part of the force, because then it's a stigmatism, and it shouldn't be, but it is. And again, we're in the safest county in the nation. I can't imagine what the men and women who are in the most dangerous places in our nation have to face on a daily basis, and their mental state, and they are sent out every day. I don't know what their shifts are. I mean, here they're 12 hours. I don't know how much sleep they get. I don't know how much overtime. I don't know how often they get a day off, or just a mental health break, or how they get to decompress, or their family support system. We don't know. And I'm not defending what happened in Tennessee at all. That's not the point of this, but we have to take good care of the people who are there to support, protect, and keep us safe. And we are failing miserably, and defunding the police is not going to help. It is going to get increasingly worse. And I don't want to become a statistic.
As you're saying that, I'm kind of visualizing between the headlines for every incident like this that happens, like in Memphis, right? Over a protracted timeline. Every time there's a spike where some cop does something he's not supposed to fucking do, I see this expansion, like ebb and flow of the police presence in the communities that need it the most. And every time it expands out too far is when you're going to see a spike where, some cop does something he's not supposed to do, and then they retract and they pull back. And then some period of time goes by, crime goes up, right? To exactly what Matt's talking about. So there's almost like a frequency to it. This constant ebb and flow of police force contraction and expansion based off of the headlines. And that's terrifying.
Listen, I want to commend, it's 2 things, and I'm going to say it because no one else will. So I'll say it. Antoinette's saying it. And I was waiting. I was going to do a show on this tonight, but I just didn't feel like getting banned. So I'm going to say it. I want to commend the African-American community in these cities for not rioting. I want to commend them for having the restraint and the wherewithal not to burn down cities. Okay. But let's stop fucking pretending that was a decision based upon good judgment and not because the 5 officers were black. Because if they were white, the whole fucking United States would be on fire right now. And everyone knows it. And the only reason we know it is because all you got to do is look to the past. That's all you got to know. You just got to look to the past. And unfortunately, that took away a lot of it. But there were still protests, and those were the same peaceful protests that happened with Floyd, and there were. And there were still peaceful protests with BLM all over the country, and I have fought people over this because I've seen it in Houston. I saw it in Bakersfield, California. I've seen it here in Virginia. BLM is not, you may not like the movement, but every single person who's African-American has a right to protest if they want to do that, and that's fine. And a lot of them were peaceful. There's over 500 of them. Yep. 186, 184 were turned into riots. That's bad. But a lot of those did not happen until after the day players left.
Yep.
Just like the Trump rally. And when the knuckleheads came in, they started this crap and the rioting and looting and all that other stuff. I'm very surprised that there wasn't more of an outrage over this, because I think this was 100 times worse than George Floyd.
Yeah.
I think this is 1,000 times worse than Michael Brown. And honestly, to be completely transparent, I think it is 1,000,000 times worse than Rodney King, because Rodney King gave as good as he got until the end. And if you watch the first 11 minutes of that fucking video, you'll know. So that kid did not deserve what happened to him. I don't care how drunk. Olivia said to me, she's like, "What did he do?" And I said, "It doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
Unless he killed a cop, there ain't no reason for that. No reason. You kill a cop, you're an idiot. But other than that, I don't care if he just shot somebody. I don't care if he robbed a bank. I don't care if he put you on a 7-mile chase. Your job is to apprehend that person, not beat them to death."
In a weird sort of way, what you're saying is that society is looking at those cops and judging them based on the color of their skin.
Right. Yes. Exactly. And that's racist in itself. Oh, well, they were black cops, so that's okay. And that's white people and black people doing that. Because honestly, if you were going to riot, this is the one. Because you just proved, and even though it's 1 case or 200 cases or 1,400 cases a year, because those are the numbers we're talking about, out of millions, 100 millions of interactions by the police officers every single year, and you're talking about 1,400 some odd cases of unreasonable death, which is incredible. But people are saying, well, because they're black, they get a pass. That's on white people. That's on black people saying that. White people are saying that, well, it's not racism because they were black. And then black people are saying, well, it's black people, so therefore this isn't the case. So it's not about police brutality. That's the concern. It's about when white cops cross the line in somebody's eyes. That's what this is about. And inherently, that's racist.
That's extremely racist, and not holding people accountable, because it shouldn't matter. They could be purple, green, orange people. And again, I haven't watched the video. I saw like a couple clips on the news, but nothing egregious. So I don't know the full extent of it. But from what I've heard from other people and what Matt said was very close to what I've heard too, this is way worse than Rodney King. And when that came out, I did not watch that either. I was much younger, but I didn't watch that either. And it shouldn't be a judgment call on a skin color. It's a judgment call on what's right and wrong. And did they fuck up? Excuse my language. Sorry. Or did, I know, I'm sorry.
Holy cannoli.
I feel like I cuss like once a show now, but that was like the one time.
Seriously.
I didn't warn people either. I'm sorry.
That was some weird shit.
Yeah. Sorry.
She gets a cussing coupon.
I know.
Rodney King isn't drinking through a straw, and it wasn't DOA. This guy probably had brain damage. This guy took 240-pound man hits. If I hit a man like I would kill him. If I hit my wife, she wouldn't survive. If I hit a man of his size as hard as those cops were hitting, I'd kill the guy. Dude, I can pick up 250-pound barbells and do 50 shrugs. My grip strength and dude, I can hit like a fucking truck. And these guys weren't holding back. They were this was just as, have you seen those things where like you're in a Bed Bath & Beyond and some guy comes up to an innocent bystander and just cold cocks them and knocks them out, plays the knockout game? That's how hard those cops were hitting that kid. It was just as bad. These cops should spend the rest of their lives in jail, period. All of them. Anybody who watched, who didn't do something. And here's what you should really do. If the left really want to make a point, charge those 5 cops with a hate crime.
Yeah.
Charge them with a hate crime. How do you not prove that is malice and intent to injure based upon somebody's what? What did he do to deserve that other than being black in a neighborhood, probably high? I'm sure they're going to find out he was high.
But he did try to run.
That's fine. You can stop it.
Not saying it's justified. Not saying it's justified. But
no.
If you run here, the cops won't stop you. Like you can't do anything anymore. You can't even, if you have a tail light out, they won't pull you over here. Like they don't care anymore. And not that they don't care. They can't. They're afraid to pursue you because of something like this.
Kristen, what's Dan Bongino's take? He's law enforcement. I think it's probably the same as mine. It better be, because I'd be shocked.
Actually is. I watched them all today, including Matt Walsh's, which was also his question was one of timing. It seemed like the police chief played this whole thing up basically before the video was even released, like spent the first 3 days prior to Friday talking this thing up. Oh, it's worse than Rodney King. It's a horrible thing. She's talking it up, not de-escalating. She's letting the public know it's terrible. Oh, and we're going to drop it on Friday, as everyone gets off for the weekend.
Right. We said that the other night.
Yeah, that was my huge issue. It's not a freaking movie premiere. It's someone's life who ended, and it should be taken seriously with not like, hey, check out the video. It comes out at whatever time she was releasing it.
It was bad. Listen,
Bongino's take was just like what you were talking about though earlier.
Bongino and we very seldom disagree on much. That's why we wouldn't be good together in a room. But I'll tell you, I said that this was all about optics. But the thing is is that he had to prepare the public. But like I said, it should have been released on a Wednesday afternoon if you wanted it to bury. It comes down to this. Everything that they did was right. The police officers were fired. The police officers have charges against them. They are continuing to fire the more they investigate. This is why I believe also the second reason why people didn't riot is because they got what they've asked for. These people shouldn't be paid. They should be terminated immediately. The charges should be filed against them if all of that's warranted. And they did. Good for Memphis for doing their job. Now, the second piece of this is these things happen in 3s or 4s. And if you think if a white cop or whatever shoots a black unarmed kid in the next 2 weeks, you know what's going to happen. These things always seem to happen in 3s, and it's tragic and it's horrible, man. It sucks. But this is the narrative, and it's propagated by the media. The media should have been all over this. They should have been all over this. But instead, what are they saying? They're saying, oh, well, all 5 cops were racist. And it's a supremacy thing. I'm sorry. This isn't racism. This is muscle-bound, steroid-driven fucking gang unit cops who are burned out, who have PTS, who have psychological trauma, and they beat the fuck out of a poor kid because they could. And one of them took Mace in the eyes, and he was pissed, and he decided to go ahead, and that was the day he cracked. So there's a whole litany of things that need to be looked at, including mental health for cops. This isn't a one-size-fits-all. Nothing ever is. It's never that simplistic, folks. There's always more complexity, and you got to look at mental health. You got to look at what the kid's tox level was. Did he try to grab a gun? Did he say something? Did he do something? What was his criminal record? Were these cops ever held accountable for something like this before? Were their supervisors brushing it under the rug? Were they on fucking document? Should they have been writing a desk versus on patrol? There are so many things to look at here, and the only thing that the media is doing is looking at the color of people's skin and trying to instigate some sort of fucking reaction versus doing their jobs, which is to show and tell people what the hell's going on. This is the difference. This is the problem.
another real quick point is you got to wonder, they were part of what was called that Scorpion crime unit, right?
Right.
So this is a small group of highly trained policemen,
right,
who were basically told. I mean, you have to imagine that talks like this have been had in the past. If you're part of SWAT or if you're part of the Scorpion team or whatever, then you have a specialty, and your specialty, I have to imagine, would be to take on crime, let's say maybe a little more aggressively than your standard black and white. And so you have to wonder if, to Matt's point, if these people are burned out and they're constantly being told, look, we're fighting crime here, folks, we need to be more aggressive, that at what point somebody's going to snap at some point. Somebody is going to take things too far. Oh, and boom, there it is. So you just,
no, it's frustrating. I'm so
more
tired.
of the story's going to come out. Right. I mean, we're in the fog of war, man. We don't, like I said, now, does it change thing if the guy was on LSD? Well, sure it does, because, he kept moving, but you get your ass beat. Of course you're going to want to try to get away, man. Sure. I don't know what to say. I don't ever want to be in that situation. I couldn't be in that situation. If I was in that situation, I know what I would do. I would lay there and I would do whatever they said. And I don't care how difficult it was. But even if he would have complied, you don't know what would have happened during that time. You just don't know. Was he resisting arrest? Sure he was. But there's a big difference between driving your car off and using it as a fucking weapon of death, and an officer grabs her sidearm versus the taser, fires one shot, realizes her mistake and stops, and the assailant dies, even though he was using the vehicle that could have killed cops. That's different. Somebody running and pulling a gun is different. Someone evading police and taking a hostage is different. Somebody coming at a cop who's 6'7" when you're 5'6", it's different. The kid didn't weigh as much as one of their fucking legs. It would be like me fighting my son.
It's like Matt taking me on. Like, there's zero chance of that coming out good. But I did hear, and I did not look this up for truth, but I did hear on some news source that at least one of the officers was on this Scorpion task force, but he had less than 2 years experience on the police force. So that seems it seems crazy. I mean, I don't know the credentials. I don't know if that's even true. I didn't look it up. I don't know.
Well, I have a picture of the Scorpion.
He was probably identified as one of those hot shit, he's going to move up the chain quick. So we'll put him in his high speed,
beeline a detective.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I have a photograph of the Scorpion units lead commander, if anybody wants to see it. And you can just tell from this guy's attitude, just in the photo alone, why his men act this way. It's pretty sad.
Oh, that's
funny.
Just
thought I'd let you guys. Scorpion King. Did anyone see that movie? I guess not. I guess there was one person. It was Amy. All right, we're getting one quick phone call.
Right?
It was horrible, dude. Caller, where are you from?
Hey, it's Antoinette.
I know it is. What's going on, Antoinette? You've come just in time for our 1 minute. So it's all up to you, sister. What's your take?
Okay, well, just real quick, the whole Tyree Nichols incident, yes, it was horrific and everything, but we can also see how mainstream media has kind of pushed it into divisive tactics. They actually jumped the shark on that one, and I could just see a bunch of CNN executives, even at the White House, they just have their fingers crossed. They're like, please, 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 and then it actually came out for the facts, and they're like, oh shit, well, how do we spin this? Okay, so now police force in general is a form of white supremacy. How does that add up? And actually CNN and a lot of them have been coming out, they're like, oh, well, the whole policing system in and of itself is just systematic white supremacy. So when they pull this racial shit into it, it's just divisive tactics. It's just meant to divide and to distract from what's really going on. It's tragic. I'm sorry for that. Do we need some kind of police reform? Yeah, probably. But they're talking about abolishing the police.
Yeah.
Where do we need
reform, or do we need to understand that all 5 of these cops were actually hired under the Lower Standards Act? Right. Does everyone know that?
I did. I saw that. Yes.
Maybe it's we need to. Can you imagine what the military? How many more Fort Hoods we're going to have because we've lowered the standards in the military? This is what happens when you take shitbags. You get shit results.
Mm-hmm.
You want to lower the standards.
That was actually my next point, because they actually lowered the military standards. So women would have like a leg up and stuff in that, and the diversity and the stuff that's going on in our military. Yes, it does. It flows downhill, and when you lower the standards, you're going to get, like, unfortunately, that woman cop that got manhandled and almost slammed to the ground from one suspect. I'm sorry. There are physical tests and police academy and things that you have to go through to test your physical endurance and how you handle a situation. Those are put in place so we have the right people for the job.
Agreed.
Well, I agree. Listen, you're going to hear a lot on this story, and I know enough about just ride-alongs and working with police departments and trainings and stuff to know when somebody's on drugs. I can almost guarantee that he was under copious amounts of narcotics, because he was getting up from things he shouldn't have. And that doesn't matter. It comes down to this. It's just like January 6th. You can sit here and say all the things you want about Ray Epps and Ashley Babbitt, and they let him in and then they didn't. I don't give a fuck. Incontrovertible evidence that you should not make excuses about that day. Nobody should make excuses about this kid either. This was murder, period. And those 5 cops need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Every one of them. And anyone who saw it and didn't do anything also need to be charged with attempted murder or accessory to murder. I don't care. And the people who didn't perform the right type of EMS and services and just watched him, those people should be accessory to murders too.
They should be worse. I'm sorry, because they had
you just make an example out of these fucking guys. And you know what? Yeah. You put them in prison, they're all going to be dead within a year anyway. You don't need to do the death penalty, because a cop going to general pop, that's pretty much a death sentence. That's like a pedophile going into prison.
Yeah.
So, real quick point. I just wanted to, something I was just kind of visualizing is that because of this, everyone's got an iPhone now. Everyone has a camera with streaming capability in their pocket wherever they go, right? Mm-hmm. With the warnings that she was just talking about, Antoinette, with either a push for lowering police standards for admission or abolishing some police, while simultaneously you have politicians in nearly every state and in DC trying to do more with gun reform. Okay.
Yep.
Less guns available, less training for police, and the possibility of less police just total in numbers, and everyone. So there's already going to be an increase in your crime rate, right? And now you have people with iPhones. You're going to see more of this kind of thing happening. If all of those tag items come through.
Well, one of the things that some people, I'm not saying he was on drugs, most assuredly. Listen, I saw some of the hits that he took. Unless he's Apollo Creed, the adrenaline doesn't do that. Understand, your fight or flight kicks in. So I don't know what to tell you. The shots that he took, I don't know. We're going to find out. And I said, I don't know, and I'm not sure, but I saw him get up multiple times. I saw him struggle. I saw him use strength to get away from these guys who are 240. These guys, all the size of their arms are the size of their thighs, man. These are gang units. They could not get a hold of this kid. They could not get this kid. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. My point is, all of this will come out. We're going to know everything more than we ever wanted to know about this. But for someone to say that he was taking pictures of nightingales, okay, come on. All right, come on. It's immaterial. As much as it's immaterial what was in his system, what he was doing at the time, it doesn't matter. The cops murdered him. It's over. Yep. That's it. Right. But let's not go ahead and say that this guy was just, he was out basket weaving, and writing scripture, eating ice cream with the local Mormon tabernacle. Okay, come on. Come on.
Okay. To your point, Matt, yes. He actually died 3 days later in the hospital. So he wasn't even dead on arrival. Like, he died 3 days later. So there was probably something in the system that was kind of like supernatural type strength.
No, come on, man. Internal injuries. He probably had a blow. Hold on. No. You don't know any of that. You can't say that. With the hits that he took, he could have a severed brainstem. He could have internal bleeding. He could have cracked ribs, punctured lungs. We don't know, kiddo. We can't say that he died of a drug overdose. I'm not going to allow that like they did with Floyd. Floyd, we knew that, and I've been on that stuff. I get it. Your breathing slows down. Your heart rate speeds up. You're going through almost like a horrible shock. There's no doubt that attributed to Floyd's death. There's no doubt in my mind. But we don't know any of this with this kid. Let's wait before we say that. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, not that kid. No, I didn't even say that. I just said that he died 3 days later in the hospital. Whether it be from a drug overdose or, he probably, he did have his head beat in. So that's fair.
Okay. Yeah, we don't know about drugs. We got to be very careful of that because I don't want to give out any disinformation. I'm just telling you, when he was getting hit, he kept moving, kept getting up. It was very reminiscent of Rodney King. He wasn't resisting. He was trying to get away because they kept beating the living shit out of him. Yeah. I mean, they tased him. They maced him.
Yeah.
It was horrible. It was the worst. It was.
It was. But more cities burned to the ground after George Floyd's death. And this one just kind of fizzled out. So that should tell you something about the narrative. Like I said,
different time.
Let's put the shoe on the other foot. I don't know. Let's just hypothetically just switch the situations around a little bit. Yeah, this was more horrific. And
it doesn't matter though, Antoinette, because they didn't. You can't play hypothetical with what somebody didn't do. They didn't riot. And you could say it's because, listen, you could very easily also say that this is the first time that 5 have been fired without pay. Criminal charges were put against them immediately. And the investigation was announced and the results long before they released the video. What if that's what did it? I want to be careful with trying to, malign black people with lawlessness and destructive behavior. I vehemently disagree with this.
Right.
To Matt's point, in every other case that's been similar to this, a lot of times the police force would kind of shield their cops who were the accused, right, as the people that were accused of beating someone, right, and so a lot of times they would be put on some sort of mandatory leave, and they were told, all right,
with pay.
With pay, right? It's suspended with pay, this kind of thing. And in this case, they were immediately not only fired, but then charges brought up against them. What if that's the difference?
That's my point.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my point. I know sometimes I just don't tolerate that, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that all Republicans are fucking J6ers, and I'm not going to say all black people are BLM rioters and Antifa. It's just not true. It's unequivocally false. In fact, the majority of African Americans in this country are law-abiding citizens, just like you, just like me, and deserve all the respect and admiration in the world. And then there's a shitbag element inside whites, blacks, browns, greens, yellows, and everybody else. That's what this is about. This is not that. They rioted during George Floyd because humanity. It's just George Floyd was a different time. Lockdowns. I mean, my God. It's just a different situation. Chauvin was put on fucking suspension with pay. He wasn't immediately charged. They were saying he was going to get off. I mean, it was just completely different. This was handled the way it should. They should be fired and charged, period. There was enough evidence, no pay, go after him. And then they can get their money back if they were proven right, but they're not going to be. The video evidence is empirical. These guys are going to jail for a long time, and they should.
Right.
Right, and justice works. And so I was happy to see that come out the way it did. And it was quickly too. It was actually expedient. But my whole point was the way the mainstream media just kind of pushed it just to sow that kind of division against the people that don't watch too much news or keep up with this. It just sows seeds of division. And then you've got that certain subset that just reads the headlines and then they automatically get their thought from that. And it's wrong. And then I know you went into Whoopie on The View and stuff. I wasn't here for that, but yeah, that was fucked.
I want to just go back on one thing real quick. Is the media failed? So
they always
no, they don't. They always succeed. They succeed with Russian collusion. They succeed with George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown. We can go on and on and on. They failed this time, and they did not get the African-American population to riot. And good on fucking the population for everyone involved for saying, no, we're not going to. I hope it stays. I hope people are going to slow down and realize that destroying their own fucking communities is not a solution for justice. It does no good. It creates more victims, more crime, and also it amps up cops to even be more on edge. I did a show on this. I salute every single person who was motivated to go break something who didn't and say, I don't care why you didn't do it. The fact that you didn't is awesome. I don't care why. Let's hope the next time also holds true if the circumstances are a little bit more susceptible to people jumping to conclusions quickly. But if every department handles it like Memphis, honestly, I think black people, more importantly, will look at that and say, that's justice. Those fuckers are fired. They're off the street and they're going to prison. That's what needs to happen because that's what would happen to me if I did it. If I hit a cop, that's where I would be. And that's what needs to happen.
You can't fight brutality and violence in the police force by performing acts of
violence against the police force
and burning things down with any sort of without being disingenuous, right?
Yes. Perfect. Amy, and wait, Amy gets her 1 minute, and then Antoinette, you get your 1 minute, then Leroy, then me, because I need to go eat. I'm starving. Amy, you get a minute, then it's Antoinette. Go.
I've been waiting to say this. I think most Americans, most people in our world, so to speak, we base our feelings off of our lived experiences, and most people, I hope, would, don't experience some kind of significant event in their life, such as what happened with Tyree. So you're getting your information from a news source that you're choosing. So you're getting a side of the news, and this is not just for this specific incident. This is literally anything. I've had personal experiences with police on different levels, in different situations, on all capacities for the most part. And I think it's really important that we just remind people to get educated. Don't just, if you don't have a personal experience with something, maybe go out and seek that information, whether it's personally meeting someone in that area, in that field, in that, I don't want to use the word victim, but who's someone on both sides of that. Get their feelings, get a personal human touch on it, and find out what a human being actually feels on this, not just what the news source media is telling you. Because, I have a very positive experience with cops by and large across the board. Yeah, I've been giving speeding tickets in my life, and that wasn't great, but I've never committed a crime, so I've never been on that side of it. But I will tell you, I truly feel like a cop has saved my life, and I hold him near and dear to my heart. And he was a member of a special forces SWAT team who was over time and happened to be the one who is like had to help me that day, and he literally saved my life, and he happened to be a Black man, and I love him and his family to this day. They truly saved my life. And I think it's really across the board of just, if you don't have a personal experience with something, and the chances of that being true is probably slim to none, either do the research, find the information, check multiple sources, talk to someone who has an experience and get their side of it, talk to someone on the other side of that experience and get their side of it, and then really pull in questions that you want to ask yourself and to those people, and get your information from yourself and your logic and truly how you would feel, and don't base everything off of the freaking CNN and Fox News and whoever you listen to. Please be a human being first. That's all. That's my 2 cents.
Outstanding. Antoinette, you got 1 minute.
That's awesome, Amy. You're going to need those 2 cents back because of Biden inflation. But no, to her point, yeah, if we're going to come together as a society, we really have to get the divisive tactics out of it, the divisive politics. And right now you can kind of see how they pit people against one another. And it's just disgusting. I mean, baseline humanity, okay? So to your point earlier, Matt, shit comes in every different color, shape, and size of the rainbow, whatever. We need to look past that and look to how they're seeing, how they're othering people right now. And it's kind of reminiscent of what happened during World War II. You start to ostracize a certain subset of society, and that's dangerous. You also start to change the language. You also start to change the narrative. You start erasing history, pulling down statues, rewriting things. It's very Orwellian. And I just recently reread George Orwell's 1984, and it's hitting really close to home. Especially when you're bombarded by propaganda every day, and the gaslighting is hitting the extreme. Okay, we got the president of the United States telling us that the economy is doing just fine, and meanwhile we're out here being like, what? No, it's not. It's gaslighting. And the American public, the ones with half a brain anyway, and the ones that really see what's going on, this is not okay. And I'll just leave it at that. I can go on for like another 10 minutes.
No, you can't, because you had 1 minute and you did great, and so did Amy, and that's fine. And I'm hungry and I gotta go eat, and I love you, Leroy. 1 minute, go.
With everything that's happening in the news, with all of the headlines about cops and top secret information that's been found in politicians' homes and things of that nature, it's easy to become cynical, and it's easy to become, very kind of dubious about everything. I would just stress that you should be completely skeptical of everything the media is trying to feed you. I would question all of that, but not at the expense of being kind to individuals. You should always question, what the hell is happening in government? What are their motivations? What are their, what are their goals, kind of thing. You should have those types of attitudes and those kinds of thoughts. If something happens in DC, all right, you should immediately think, all right, well, who's going to benefit from that? Those are healthy thoughts, but not at the expense of just tuning out the entire world and saying this place sucks, because it doesn't.
Correct.
And right. we run that risk if we let those headlines penetrate us. And so that's why I say that. Be skeptical of all of that, and don't forget to value the people that you have in your life around you, your immediate friends, right? Because groups of people like the government, they should be questioned, but individuals, this is where your family is, and this is where your greatest contributions to society can live. So don't forget to hug it out, right? And that's my minute.
Dude, you said penetrate. I'm freaking, my desk lifted 3 inches. Listen, one of the things I'm going to put to fucking bed right now. Apologize for this. Pisses me off. Martin Luther King. This is one of the most abused and completely manipulating quotes that he ever made. And assholes only took 7 words out of it. And it says, is the language of the unheard. Riots are the language of the unheard. Yeah, that's only part of the quote, dick face. And I could go through the rest of it where he basically says that riots are a last resort for people who have nothing else. He was a pacifist, you dicks. Okay? He never rioted in his life, not once. He marched peacefully. There's number 1. Number 2, here's a quote that you never hear, and I'm going to put on a fucking t-shirt with Martin Luther King's picture and melt down leftists. The limitation of riots, moral questions aside, is that they cannot win. And their participants know it. Hence, rioting is not revolutionary, but reactionary because it invites defeat. It involves an emotional catharsis, but it must be followed by a sense of futility. So go fuck off with your Martin Luther King endorsements for burning shit down, you pricks. And if you lived during his era, you would know it, you fucking cocksuckers.
Yeah.
For sure. And we're getting ready to go into Black History Month. And so people are going to melt down on Twitter and pretty much accuse other people of taking Martin Luther King out of context.
It's not out of context. He didn't say it. Yeah. It's like basically taking Trump with Charlottesville. You didn't listen to the last freaking 45 seconds. All you had to do was wait 5 more, and he denounced everything. This is what they do. And I went on and I saw a very prominent Black person quote this and said, riots is the language of the unheard. And I said, congratulations on fucking condoning riots. And you also misquoted the man who I know more about him as a white man than you do, which says something about who you are. It's ridiculous.
Well, everything is taken out of context to spin the narrative.
Right. Who am I talking to, Michelle? I'm talking to every single person. I'm talking to every single person who says that Martin Luther King condones riots.
Right.
And he doesn't. And he never did. The man never lit one fire that wasn't for a hot dog and some s'mores. Okay? All right.
He was also Republican.
I'm so sorry.
Go. Bye. Love you. Bye. See ya.
We're
going right now. We're done. Antoinette,
okay,
good night. Thanks for calling in. We love you. Appreciate you. Leroy, thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Good night, Dumb Nation. Go over to the donut.
Good night, dummies. Bye. Love you guys. Peace.
See you, buddy. Peace. Go on over to the Donut Friendly store at The Dumb Show. Thanks for watching. I apologize for using a bad language, but man, I am sick and tired of people misquoting Martin Luther King. He never, ever condoned riots. He never said it was okay. He never would. The man was a pacifist, like I said. Learn your history, read a book, go do something fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow night with another recorded show. Actually, no, I'll be on live probably later. I've got a class I have to be to in the middle of the night. God bless everyone. See you manana. What am I going out with? This. Oh, crap. I can't get this out. I have switched this outro video like 75 times. There it is. Just watch it from here. This is cool. Chris actually said glitches. Chris says, wasn't MLK a Republican? No, he was a socialist, but that's an entire another conversation. Good night, everybody. God bless. See you.